welcome to Adrienne Ross Squared, where I square off from A to Z. First of all, let me say this and get this out of the way. You see, I'm not wearing my glasses. No, I don't even have my contacts in. I took off my glasses momentarily so that I can say this. I'm using a virtual background. And so when I have my glasses on, you're going to see some flashes in the lens, probably. And before you think, is she like on another planet? Why does she look like doo-doo-doo-doo-doo in her eyeballs? Just so you know, it's because of the virtual screen thing. I'm not used to that happening, but I noticed it happening. So putting the glasses back on, and they're probably smudged. So there it is. I see it. Well, I can't do anything about it. Actually, you know what? I think I will take them off until I need them to read, which is going to be coming up soon. I got to put them on to read, but I don't want to distract you too much. Okay, now let's get down to business. I'm going to do this video about 5 relationships every person needs. And let me tell you what sparked my desire to do this video. Over on the main channel, that is the Adrienne Ross Show, where sports and culture connect, I did a video. If you hear that, meow, that's my cat, one of them, Trooper. I did a video on the main channel about Tennessee women's basketball player Janiah Barker. And on Sunday, Tennessee played UCLA. Janiah Barker used to go to UCLA, came to Tennessee via the transfer portal. This is her first season at Tennessee. Tennessee, my lady Vols, got their behinds whipped 77-99 to UCLA on UCLA's court. So it was UCLA's court. So Janiah Barker was going back to UCLA for the first time since she left. So after the game in college, you know, both teams line up and they do the handshake. And so the talk everywhere was about Janiah Barker not shaking the hand of her former coach, Corey Close. On closer examination, she did take the hand, touch the hand. I don't know how much of a shake it was, but touch the hand of her former coach. But then she pulled back like this. Looked like her coach maybe was going to give her a little hug or maybe say something good, probably good game because Janiah Barker had a great game. All we know is she did this and everybody was talking about it. So I talked about it as well. And I explained in the video, I'll put the link in this video's description. I explained why I discussed it. Not that it needed an explanation, because I do talk about things like this. It's what I do, but I explain exactly why. A lot of people get it. I mean, like if you're above 4 years old, you understand what it is to show respect, especially publicly. You don't want to be disrespectful. So I talked about that in the video. I also said, I believe it's a learning experience for Janiah. And I believe that if she had that moment over, she would do things differently. It's not the end of the world, but it certainly merits discussion because she's considered a leader on that team, and leaders lead. And so we talked about that. And like I said, almost anybody understands that because that's what we teach our kids, right? If you're a parent, if you're a teacher, that's what you teach them to, you don't want to be disrespectful, and you want to, I don't know their history. I don't know the situation, but just a little bit leaning and a pat would have been fine. But anyway, I got one comment from someone who commented like, it sounds like you just wanted to use this opportunity to basically drag her. I'm paraphrasing, but the part where it says, it sounds like, I'm not paraphrasing. And I said, no, it doesn't. It doesn't sound like that. It only sounds like that to you, right? Because you're listening to these voices. It sounds like, and so anyway, I responded. He said something else. I responded and I just said, look, okay. The fact that I'm explaining this to anybody over 4 years old is ridiculous. And I won't be continuing with this conversation along those lines. But for you to try to measure my motive for it other than the obvious is wild, really. Why are we even arguing about how to show respect for people? And also saying it's not the end of the world. It's a learning experience. But when I read the initial comment, which sought to blame me for the girl's transgression, I thought about this teaching, if you will. And I call it a teaching because I have taught this. This is more of a conversation, but I have taught on this several times, going back many years, probably 15 years or more. The 5 relationships everyone needs. It didn't come from me. These were notes that I took when I attended a conference, a church conference, and the pastor of the church was doing this particular session. There were breakout sessions, and I went to this session. And so I don't take any credit for these 5 people he mentions, but I find it quite good. So I've shared it many times. I've given it to other people who wanted to share it, and I'm going to share it here today. I'm going to touch on these 5 relationships because I recognize the gentleman on the main channel who sought to point his finger at me for talking about what the world saw. I said, a lot of times people are so used to just being around yes people. They're not used to accountability. They're not used to someone calling them higher and calling themselves higher. And so when someone discusses something, they just assume, oh, it sounds to me like you just want to drag this person. Meanwhile, I'm a Tennessee Lady Vols fan. Okay. But that's because we love to blame. It's sort of like when your mail comes and it's a bill. So you're mad at the mailman. Somebody, maybe even the utility person got the bill wrong. And so instead of addressing that, they address the mail person who brought it, right? It's like somebody who commits a horrible crime and they're in court. And then the lawyer has to call out what happened. And somebody goes, it's the lawyer's fault. It sounds like you have a problem with the person. No, it's my job to talk about it. And it's my job to bring accountability in that kind of situation. A lot of people don't have the necessary people in their lives to help them grow. They would much rather point the finger at someone else than actually want the person who has transgressed to come up a little bit higher. And we all need to come higher, which is why we all need certain kinds of people in our lives. So if the man from the main channel who wanted to correct me for calling out something that needed to be corrected is watching over here, get a pen out, get a pad, take notes, pay close attention. And all of us need to pay close attention to this. So we're going to get into this. 5 relationships everyone needs in their lives. And I have to apologize for putting on these flashing glasses because I need to be able to see these notes. So are you ready? Let's go. Number 1, and this is in no certain order. Number 1, every person needs an encourager in their lives. Everyone needs an encourager. This is someone who is going to help you excel, help you do right, help you be everything that you can possibly be. There's that person who will always encourage you. You need that person in your life. Number 2, I'm holding my head down like this because I notice the glasses don't flash as much when I do this. I'll be like that teacher like this. Number 2, not only do you need an encourager, you need this person. You need a discourager as well. What? A discourager? Yes, it's not what you think. This is the person who discourages you from doing the things you shouldn't do. It's a good thing. A discourager isn't just going to feed you what you want to hear. You know that yes person I mentioned? You know that time that somebody comments and said I guess they would have said to Janiyah, that was wonderful that in front of everybody you just disrespected your former coach. Although, of course, you want to be seen as a leader and you want to go to the WNBA, it's okay. No, you need a discourager who's going to say to you, whatever the situation is, no, stop, you're wrong, don't go down that road. Not just a yes person. Everyone needs someone who holds the quote unquote shut up card in their lives. The discourager holds that card and isn't afraid to use it. We have to have that. I have that. And not everyone has that place in my life. It's something that is earned over time for the most part, or earned at some point. There are people who have permission to speak into my life. The average Joe Schmo, I'm not going to take that good discouraging from things because I don't know you, because I don't know your heart. But when I know your heart, we've got that kind of relationship, I need that. I have friends who will call me and say, Adrienne, this is what I'm thinking. Tell me what you think, because they know that I'm not just going to blow smoke, that they know that I'm going to say, no, stop, let it go. You're wrong. If you don't have a person who's willing to tell you you're wrong, you need that person. Just as you need the encourager, just as much as you need the encourager, you need a discourager. It's a good thing. Number 3, every person needs a guide. We need people who will give direction and guidance in our lives. We talk a lot about, obviously, sports on the main channel. And there are some people who think that some athletes don't need guidance. They don't need to be coached. They don't need to be directed. And there are people who feel that way about people's lives. Oh, you don't tell me anything. Don't guide me. If you don't have a guide, you can get off track. Thus, GPS, or back in the day, just a map you had. You need guidance, and your spirit has to be open to receive that guidance. People who don't have guidance are lost in life. We're not meant to do this thing alone. You need these 5 types of people. So we have the encourager, we have the discourager, we have the guide. Now we're going to move to the 4th one. Every person needs a mentor or a modeler. We need people who demonstrate the qualities we're looking to live out in our lives. Someone who models it. What am I looking to live out? What can I see an example of? Some people never believe that they can achieve certain things in their lives because they've never seen it done. It's never been modeled for them. I've heard stories before of people who said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And there are people who believe my mama wasn't nothing, my daddy wasn't nothing, and I ain't going to be nothing either, because they've never seen it. And there's something about seeing it that makes you believe it. I have heard students say to me, I'm just going to say it. When I was teaching, we would have certain, I forgot what they would call them. It wasn't student of the month. We had some name for it, but we had some honor where students who had passed all their classes and had not gotten any referrals during that quarter, they would have that party. They would they would get to leave their last class the day of the party, and then they would have ice cream, and that was their celebration. I have had, and we've had all kinds of students who are able to do that, no matter the background, right? And I say that for a reason. I have mentioned that to students who happen to be Black. And I remember the time when a couple students I was talking to was like, "Oh, you got to get on that list of whatever it was called, it's escaping me." And I remember them saying, "Ms. Ross, we're Black. Like, we can't go without getting a referral you get for, bad behavior. Come on now. We can't do that." And I'm just like, what? Where did you get that mindset? But when you have people who model that and are mentors, and yeah, there were Black students who did that, but somehow they hadn't seen it and they didn't believe it because it had not been modeled for them. Or people who think they can't be a good husband or a good wife or a good parent because they've not seen that. But when you see it, you realize it can be done. It's like the story of I don't remember the name, Roger. Is it Roger Bannister? I might have the name wrong. You can look it up. But I believe the person I'm talking about was the first one to run a mile under a certain distance. I don't remember what it was, but it was like amazing. And if I had planned to say this part beforehand, I would have done my research ahead of time, but it just popped in my brain, just so you know. So it had never been done. But right after he did it, several people did it. And even high schoolers. I don't know if it was maybe 3 minutes, something like that. I don't know. It was incredibly fast. You can look it up. That's your homework assignment. It had never been done, but right after that, all these people did it, including high school students. And I heard someone teach on this, and he said, or speak on this, and he said, "What changed? Gravity?" And he said, "No. What changed was that now they knew it could be done. It had been modeled for them. It's like, if he can do it, I can do it too." You can apply that to any area of your life. You need that. Now, sometimes when we talk about mentor, maybe in our business, maybe if you're a coach, if you work for a certain company in a certain position, sometimes you don't want a mentor in your life because sometimes we're too insecure to find someone in our lives who knows more than we do. Insecurity will keep us from seeking out people who could be such a role model in our endeavors, because mentors help us develop and grow. But if you're insecure, you won't do that. You want to be the smartest person in the room. And if you heard John Maxwell say this, and John Maxwell is considered the #1 leadership expert in the world. I'm certified under John Maxwell as a speaker, trainer, coach, behavior analyst, right? So one of the things John Maxwell has said is that if you are the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. But some people, they want to be the smartest person in the room because they're too insecure not to be. And they would rather stay where they are instead of develop with a mentor or with a modeler because they're just too insecure to let it go. When I coached, my assistant coach knew so much more than I did about basketball, about coaching, but he was my assistant coach. Because that's what you want. The people who know more than you. But insecure people won't do that. There were times when I handed over that clipboard during a game because I could learn from him, And one of the things he said to me, I've shared this before, he was coaching junior high. And then he came up to be my assistant as a varsity coach with high school. And one of the things he said, though, before he came up to work with me, when he was working with the younger group, he said, "My goal is not to win some junior high," we called it some modified championship. "My goal is to make sure these young ladies are so fundamentally sound that in a few years, you win the conference, varsity high school. I'm investing in them so that you win." And then when he came up to work with me, I learned so much from him. But if I was insecure, I'd hold on to that clipboard even though my mind was blank. That's what I see with the Indiana Fever. You see that Stephanie White will hand that clipboard over at times. Sometimes she's got it. Sometimes she gives it to Austin Kelly. They all say that each of them, they trust one another, and they're not so about self that they would sacrifice the team. And then you develop and then you grow. So Chris Romano, who's my assistant, we worked together for 2 years. And then his children were young, so he stopped coaching. And exactly what he wanted to happen when he was coaching the younger ones happened. My teams won the Patroon Conference 2 years in a row. Had never been done in the history of the school. Never. Our last two years, I had some tough years, right? But those last 2 years, and he wasn't even there anymore to get in the credit for it. But he certainly was a huge part, because he modeled things for me that helped me develop and grow. Okay, number 5. So far, we've got encourager, discourager, guide, mentor / modeler, and number 5, you need a celebrator. This person celebrates your successes. This person rejoices in the fulfillment of your purpose. Believe it or not, we do need people who get excited for us. We really do need that. You ever have a situation where you are so excited and you share it, and it's like someone's not quite there and celebrating you? It's like, oh, that's kind of deflating. And have you ever been in a situation where people are more excited for you than you are for you, and more excited for you than they are for themselves? We need that in our lives. People who actually celebrate us, who want us to succeed, excel, and there will be the first person to tell you congratulations and high five you. They're not sitting there with their arms crossed. They're not sitting there saying, oh man, I wish it was me. They're not. Or maybe you're a person who, maybe you haven't fostered those kinds of relationships, and so you've got this great, oh my goodness, this is so wonderful, and there's no one around you to celebrate you. We need that. All right. Got to put on the flashing glasses again. So sometimes we actually have to take initiative to seek out these relationships. And sometimes you've got some people in the different areas. So for example, you take the mentor. Now you might have a person who's your mentor in business, and you might have someone different who's your mentor spiritually, or you might have one person who is a mentor in all those areas, right? We have different categories of our lives. And so every situation may be unique. Sometimes they overlap, but it's a blessing to have those. And sometimes it's not a person that you can reach out and touch. I can tell you, I have learned so much from people, from whether it's through podcasts, whether it's through YouTube videos, whether it's through books, right? You can put yourself in a place to learn from and to be mentored by. And then let's remember, if we can say that we need these 5 people in our lives, or 5 types of people, there might be more than one in those areas. Understand that we're not just people who take, we're also people who give. So the question might be, well, who is this person? Who's the celebrator in my life? Who's the encourager? Who's the discourager? Who's this? But you also got to say, who am I being that for? Who would point to me and say, man, that person will celebrate me every time, right? So important that we have these people, and not just yes people, and not just people who don't want people who are going to be like, listen, let's go higher, right? And you end up with comments like when you talk about common sense things and maturity, and somebody goes, it sounds to me like you just want to. It sounds to me like you don't understand leadership, and you don't understand the people we need in our lives. And so because you don't understand that then you just assume all I want to do is drag somebody, as opposed to let's just be mature and let's just talk about what needs to be talked about, because we can all come up higher. How about that? Right? I might end up doing I have more on this, and I know that people have asked to do a Bible study on this channel, and I keep telling people when it comes up that no, I have not forgotten, just trying to figure out the best way to do it. Maybe This is an area where we could do a Bible study and really dig into this a little bit more. So I'm going to be thinking about that. But whether it's this or something else, I have certainly not forgotten about that. So yeah, I wonder what you got out of this. So you can get in the comments and share what your thoughts are about this. So finally, I'm just going to reiterate, every person needs an encourager, a discourager, a guide, a mentor, modeler, or model, however you want to say it, and a celebrator. And these, I didn't come up with this. Once again, I've shared this many times, but it was Pastor Gary Brothers, and it was a session at a conference that I went to. I think he has a book on this as well, if I remember right. But anyway, it came from him. But I am glad to share it, and I have many times. So I believe it's a blessing. So get in the comments and tell us what you think, and I'll leave it at that. Well, actually, I won't leave it just yet. I want to ask you to make sure you subscribe to this channel if you haven't done so yet. Also, thumbs up this video. And if there's a hype button there, I'm hearing about this hype button, then make sure you hit that button as well so that other people will know where I am and what I'm doing here on Adrienne Ross Squared, where I square off from A to Z. And if you're not a part of the main channel, The Adrienne Ross Show, the link to that channel is in the description of this video. Check that out as well. I will catch you next time, God willing. God bless you abundantly.